This video exists because of you. So I did a video a few weeks back about the things I'm no longer buying at the grocery store in 2026. And in that video, I shared that I am going to start making my own yogurt at home again. I asked if you wanted to see a tutorial and several of you said yes, so here we are. Now, full disclosure, I have made Greek yogurt at home before, but it has been a few years, several of them. I don't exactly remember how many of them, but I have done it before. And from what I remember, it's actually a very simple process, a pretty hands-off process, and it's pretty easy once you know how to do it. So I'm going to be walking through this, not as an expert, but as someone who has done it before, understands the process. And we're gonna test it out again to see if it deserves a spot in our routine in this season. If you're a busy mom who's looking for a way to save on groceries without adding stress or mental load, this is exactly the kind of content I share on my channel, so I invite you to subscribe. And if you stick around to the end of this video, I will show you how to get a free printable download with all of the steps laid out. So no note taking, no rewinding, just all of the information in one place in case you wanna try this at home. Okay? Let's get into it. So why Greek yogurt? Why did Greek yogurt make the list of things I'm not buying? Well, for one thing, it's one of those things that quietly adds up over time. You know, you buy it every week or every other week, and it doesn't seem like a big purchase until you add up how much you're spending over time. So for me, it made sense personally because it's something that I eat a lot of. And the homemade version, it doesn't taste like a compromise. It's actually genuinely delicious. Let me show you exactly what I'm using so you can see how simple this actually is. So I'm using a half gallon of milk today because I haven't done this in a while and I don't want to make 4 quarts of yogurt only to find out my family doesn't eat it. But just know that you could absolutely do this. You could scale this process up and do it with a gallon of milk. For the starter, I'm using this organic whole milk yogurt. Now here's a fun fact. Even if you want to make Greek yogurt, you do not have to use Greek yogurt as starter. I will show you later on in the video how to make your yogurt Greek yogurt. So this organic whole milk yogurt that I'm using as my starter was $4.19, and you only have to buy that one time. If you want to be really efficient, you can actually reuse your homemade yogurt as the starter for future batches. For comparison's sake, I recently bought a brand name Greek yogurt and it was $8.38 for a 30-ounce container. For this batch of Greek yogurt, I'm using the starter yogurt, which is $4.19, plus the milk, which is $5.17 for a half gallon. I mean, yes, you keep buying milk, but even factoring that in, the cost per batch is significantly less for homemade. Plus, I like knowing exactly what's in it. Okay, so I'm gonna be using my Instant Pot to make yogurt today. You can make yogurt in a crock pot or on the stove top, but I've never done that before, so I'm gonna be using the Instant Pot today. The first step is to boil the milk. My Instant Pot actually has an automatic yogurt function, which is pretty cool. If yours doesn't, it's a little bit more complicated, but I'm sure you could chat GPT that. But anyway, so you're gonna boil the milk and then get it up to a temperature of 180 degrees and then let it cool. But you don't want to let it cool too far. So the goal is to get it between 105 to 115 degrees. So this part, it might look really active, but it's really not. Most of this process is just waiting for temperatures to do what they're supposed to do. You don't have to stand around babysitting it. You're just checking in from time to time. So, but I'm going to set a timer for 1 hour to come back and check on it. Once the milk has cooled, the next step is to whisk in the starter. So I am checking the temperature. First of all, there's like a little skin on top of the yogurt. That's totally normal. You can just skim that off with a spoon. But anyway, I'm checking the temperature. The goal is to get it between 105 to 115 degrees. This yogurt is actually a little bit towards the lower end of that range. So it's definitely time to get this incubating. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to skim off that coating, that light film that's on top of the milk. And then I'm going to put a cup of the warm milk. I'm going to ladle out about a cup of the warm milk. And then I am going to whisk in some of my starter yogurt into that warm milk. Here is an important detail. More starter does not necessarily mean better yogurt. You only need a small amount in order for this to work. You really need about 1 tablespoon per quart of milk. So half gallon's 2 quarts, so I'm using 2 tablespoons of the starter yogurt. I'm going to whisk that into the little measuring cup, and then I'm going to whisk that into the main pot of milk. After that, it's time to incubate. So again, my Instant Pot does have an automatic yogurt function. So I'm just gonna set it for that. 8 hours is kind of your minimum incubation time. It'll give you a tangier yogurt. I like mine a little bit smoother and creamier, so I'm gonna let it go for about 12 hours. So this takes time, but not a ton of effort. Okay, so it's the next day and the yogurt has incubated for 12 hours, and I was going to show you how beautifully set it was, and I opened up the Instant Pot and found out that it had not set at all. Ooh. So remember I told you in the intro to this video that I hadn't done this in a little while? That's actually never happened before. But I'm not going to just give up. I went to ChatGPT to find out what went wrong and how I can possibly fix this. That's another thing. Don't be afraid to, when something doesn't go right the first try it again. So anyway, I went to ChatGPT to find out what had gone wrong and how we can fix it. So according to Chat, so the recipe that I used in the past said that you incubate it to 105 to 115. The temperature was a little bit low, so I'm gonna boil it again and try to get it a little bit hotter. Also, another step is to let it sit in the hot pot for like 5 minutes before you pull it out to cool. So I'm gonna try that. And also maybe the starter yogurt that I used said live active cultures. That's an important detail. You wanna make sure whatever yogurt you're using says live and active cultures. So even though mine said that, maybe it was a little bit weak. So I'm going to put a little bit more in and we'll see what happens. Okay, so I re-incubated it overnight for 8 hours, and this time it worked. Not perfectly, but well enough to keep going. So after it incubates, it's best to let it just chill in the fridge for 8 hours or so, or overnight. It just kind of comes together a little bit more. And then after it's fully set, I like to strain it through a cheesecloth. That's how I make it thicker, more Greek style, without having to buy Greek yogurt in the first place. You don't have to do this step, but I prefer that really thick, creamy texture, and this is the way to get it without paying extra for Greek yogurt at the grocery store. After the yogurt had drained for a few hours, this is what the texture looked like. It ended up a little bit thicker than I prefer. So I took some of the liquid's called whey, by the way. So I took a little bit of that and mixed it back into the yogurt to thin it out a little bit. And here is the finished product. If you'd like that free printable walkthrough I mentioned earlier in the video where I lay out all the steps and what I learned through this process, the link is in the description down below. It's there so that you don't have to remember any of this or take notes. And if you do want to try this at home, you can learn from my experiences. And if you're watching this because you're trying to be more intentional with grocery spending this year, I'll link the video next where I share the things that I'm no longer buying at the grocery store and why. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you over there.